Hello and welcome to Gambling with Gold, the first ever episode of the new podcast provided to you by Champions Round. My name is Jason Gold. I am the host of this show. I'm sure you can tell, given the fact that it's named after me, and I named it after myself.
Well done.
Happy to be here. Happy to have everybody listen to the podcast. Happy to finally have a gambling show, my true passion in life, all about being a degenerate gambler. And I am thrilled to share the floor with my buddy Dan Titus, a gambling expert over at the Action Network. My guy, how are you? Thank you for joining me.
Congratulations on your first inaugural show, dude.
Yes.
I love the title. You know what I mean? Got to put your name on it. Got to put your stamp on it. I love it.
Absolutely. All right. So today we are going to run through the AFC. We're going to go through every team, every division odds, Super Bowl odds, over-unders, tell you what to bet, what to stay away from, and maybe a couple thoughts on each team. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can watch the whole show. We're going to break the podcast down into 4 15-minute segments, little micro pods for you, little bite-sized gambling stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed those. With that being said, let's jump into it. And let's start with what I would say is the best division in the AFC, which would be the AFC North. Current odds right now, Baltimore plus 140, Cleveland plus 140, Pittsburgh plus 425, and the Cincinnati Bengals plus 1,200 to win the division. Dan, what are your thoughts on the division, and do any of those odds stand out to you?
Yeah, for this division, I think it's the Ravens to lose, but the Browns are going to be right on their heels the whole time. And, this is a very difficult division. The Steelers have the worst strength of schedule in the NFL right now relative to their the teams that they're going against. So I think it's going to be tough sledding for the Steelers. As I like this division, I think that the Ravens are going to come out on top, followed by the Browns, then the Steelers, then the Bengals. So if you want to do an exact order, that's the way it's going to probably play out. We did get some good news out of Joe Burrow. He's going to be playing in the final preseason game, which is great to see him back for the Cincinnati Bengals. The only problem is they never address their line, and their defense is atrocious. So not expecting much out of them. 6.5 wins. I'm going to probably take the under on that. The Steelers at 8.5 is quite interesting given how bad their offensive line is as well. They lost a ton of depth on the defensive side of the ball, namely Bud Dupree. So I think that the Steelers are going to have a little bit of a tough time. The two overs I like, the Browns at 10.5. I think that the Browns are going to come out firing yet again. They made a playoff appearance last year, played really well with a balanced offense with Kevin Stefanski at the helm here. I think we're going to see Nick Chubb become one of the purest running backs that we have, continue to stomp on defenses. And then you got the Ravens. The Ravens tooled up on offense. They still come with an elite defense. We saw how dominant they were in the preseason. I think they're ready to go, and they're going to lead out this division.
Well, the Ravens were always dominant in preseason, 19 straight wins. I mean,
crazy.
The easiest bet in football is just Ravens money line in the preseason.
Between that and preseason unders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure to win.
So the Ravens current over under 11, Cleveland 10.5, Pittsburgh 8.5, Cincinnati 6.5. Super Bowl odds on those: Baltimore is plus 1,600, Cleveland plus 1,400, Pittsburgh 4,000, Cincinnati. I mean, the longest odds, one of the longest odds in the league, 12,500. My personal projections are juice projections provided by Champions Round. Baltimore at 10.8 wins, Cleveland 10.2, Pittsburgh at 9.95, and Cincinnati at 7.1. I actually believe that the projections are right here in that Pittsburgh over 8.5 is the best odds on the board, given everything across the division. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that the offensive line issues are real. But if the preseason means anything, they've looked a little bit better than we thought they would, which is good. Ben Roethlisberger looks pretty healthy. Najee looks like he's doing his thing. The defense, even though they lost a little bit, should still be really, really solid. And it looks like, remember, we got 17 games this year. All they have to do is go 9-8. I firmly believe that this Pittsburgh team can go 9-8. So that would be my best bet in the division. Now, I don't think they're going to win. I think it comes down to Baltimore and Cleveland. I don't know which one I like more, to be honest with you. Baltimore is a team that absolutely destroys, and file this one away as a little nugget. When they play bad teams, they absolutely destroy them. It doesn't matter if the line is 10, 12, 4. It doesn't matter. They're going to cover. They're absolutely elite at beating bad teams, which is what you're supposed to do in the NFL. But this division's gotten a little bit better. So I'm a little concerned if they don't grow their offense a little bit more and Lamar doesn't do a little bit more in the passing game or their running game gets even more efficient, which I'm not sure how that's possible, that they may not win this division. The Browns are coming. The Browns are really talented all over the
Browns
board.
are definitely coming.
I mean, it's one of the best rosters in the league. Like them and the Bills might be the most complete rosters in the league. Maybe not the high upside guys, but most complete, along with Tampa Bay. Excuse me. So I could see Cleveland really breaking it together and winning this division. That's probably where I would put my money, but I still have like 25 years of knowing that the Browns stink in the back of my head. So it's kind of hard for me to just go full trigger on that. And my projections are a little lower on than the Ravens. So I would probably stay away from all of those. I don't feel good about any of these teams winning the Super Bowl. So I would say probably the only one I'm going to do here would be Pittsburgh over 8.5. Do you have any best bets for this division?
Yeah. And just to tag on to that one, Mike Tomlin's had a 10-win season in 5 of his last season. So, I think you're betting on smart money here. And one of those two times they finished with 9 wins. So, 6 of the last 7, that's pretty good money in terms of banking on the Steelers, despite having a tough strength of schedule. For my best bet, I'm going to go to the player prop, Chase Claypool over 6.5 touchdowns.
Nice.
So he had 3 touchdowns in one game last season against the Eagles, finished with 9 receiving TDs last season, tied with Juju Smith-Schuster, only played 63% of the snaps, and he scored twice in the playoffs against the Browns. So this dude's a gamer. Ben Roethlisberger's elbow supposedly better. We see that he's looked better in the preseason. I think that this offensive line is trash, so they're going to be throwing the ball a lot yet again. And Chase Claypool, red zone monster. I think he's going to have a really good season. So 6.5 seems pretty low for me. I think it's a good best bet.
Oh my God. I love the Claypool over 6.5. And I'm going to need it for a lot of fantasy teams. My only concern,
likewise,
my only concern thus far is that every time I've seen him in preseason or heard anything out of camp, he's injured. So yeah. I don't want this to be the BS Anthony Davis stuff that I have to go through with the Lakers. That every time I watch him, he's injured, and I'm just praying that he stays on the field because I feel like if he plays even 15 games this year, he's going to have 7 touchdowns. I'm fine with that. It's just a matter of, I mean, I'm sure that number is banking in the fact that he's a little injury prone. It seems
he's going to be in and out of the lineup, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So that would concern me a little bit, but I'm definitely with you on that side. What do you think of the Bengals this year? Because I'm a little interested to see if they can outperform 6.5 wins. My projections have them at 7.1, which would be a number that I'm probably pretty close to betting. Not quite yet. But all of the reports out of camp make me think that I should just stay the hell away from everything going on with the Bengals right now. So what are you hearing and kind of what are your thoughts on their season this season?
That I share a similar sentiment, man. I'm kind of staying away from Cincinnati Bengals right now because this all really hinges. That 6.5 wins really hinges on the health of Joe Burrow. And haven't heard rave reviews about Jamar Chase out of camp. I think this is T. Higgins' squad in terms of the offense and Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon's had his health issues, right? I mean, he's playing behind a poor offensive line, probably going to be catching a lot more dump passes if they can't establish that run. And that's the key to this, man. If their offensive line can't perform, you can't protect Burrow, you can't protect Joe Mixon. What do you really have here? So I'm going to take the wait and see approach, see how the first games start to line out. And if there's opportunity to get on the Cincinnati Bengals for a longer season win total based off of a couple small sample sizes, at least we can get the eye test before we actually put our money where our mouth is.
All right. That does it for the AFC North. Now let's jump to the AFC East. This division is now run by the Buffalo Bills. This is no longer the Patriots division. Buffalo is minus 150 to win. Miami plus 340, New England plus 340, and the Jets plus 1,800. Wow, the Jets getting no love despite the fact that Zach Wilson looks elite right now. We have over-unders, Buffalo 11, Miami 9.5, New England 9.5, and the Jets at 6. So what are your initial thoughts on this division? Do you think this is the Bills to lose, and do you think that either New England or Miami has a shot to take them out?
This division's finally competitive. It took Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay for it to make things happen. We see a lot more dynamic players in this division now. I think that this is the Buffalo Bills' this is their domain. They're one of the best teams in the AFC. We saw the emergence and superstardom of Josh Allen, just got the bag. I think this team is totally set and balanced on offense and defense. So it's going to be a tough road for the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins to catch them. I think bottom of the barrel is clearly the New York Jets, but I think there's some optimism with the Jets. You know, Zach Wilson's looked good in the preseason. They have a really good coach in Salah. I mean, we'll see how he plans out in the head coaching role, but I think that this is what he's really been looking for. And ultimately, it's not Adam Gase. Whatever is not Adam Gase is positive. So I think that there's going to be we're going to see the win total sneak up a little bit on the Jets. But in terms of the Miami Dolphins, I think that this is probably the most interesting team of the division because really high hopes with Tua Tagovailoa. And, you know, I see his passing props, his passing yards prop at 4,000 yards. So Vegas is definitely believing in this guy to some degree. I don't know that I buy it. If that's my best bet, I'm taking the under on Tagovailoa, 4,000.5 passing yards. But I still think this team is going to be improved from last year. You know, they were a fringe playoff team. We saw them improve with, you know, but primarily all their wins with Ryan Fitzpatrick. So this is going to be a real true test to see if Tua can stay healthy as well as leading their team to a victory here or to wins. And their defense is solid. Their offensive line ranks 28th, not the best. So, you know, I think that there's still going to be some upward sledding for them. New England Patriots, they have a decision to make. Is it Mac Jones or is it Cam Newton? Mac Jones has looked really good. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him emerge probably by mid-season if Cam Newton starts to falter. But early reports are that Cam Newton still has the job. Now he is out of practice. So Mac is probably gained a little bit of steam on that. But I think ultimately Belichick's going to side with the veteran, wait till he sees what's out there. And then if they're struggling, it's the Mac Jones era in New England.
So I want to go back to the Tagovailoa over under props yards because I did my projections on Miami last night, the juice projections provided by Champions Run. I had 3,981 passing yards.
So close.
So we were really close. I did not know that the 4,000.5 was actually the prop. I haven't looked quite at those yet. So the fact, one, I feel good about the projections that were close to Vegas.
Hey.
But two, yeah, it makes me think that Vegas is like a little higher on Tua than we think. And yeah, there's a 17th game, so that number's a little bit inflated. But
sure.
Still, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tua throw. Actually, I would be a little bit because he's not throwing the ball down the field as much. They're going to have to get a lot of game breakers between Fuller and Waddle to get to that 4,000 yards, which is definitely possible. I don't think they're going to be behind in like that many games where he's going to, have the whole second half to throw the ball over the field and have an empty 450-yard game. I don't think that's really going to happen. It's not the style that Miami wants to play. Their defense forward, they're always going to be within one score. Like if you ever saw a line where Miami is like 7.5, just take Miami. Like they're going to keep games close this season. Whether or not they're going to clear 9.5 wins, I'm not sure. A lot depends on how Tua plays late in the fourth quarter, but they're going to be close in pretty much every game they play this season.
Yeah, and to Tua, he only averaged 181 passing yards last year. And sure, now he's had a full off season to get prepared, training camp and all that. One year removed from the hip injury. So you think he's a little bit more comfortable in the offense. We saw him really targeting Mike Gesicki, another person from a fantasy perspective that's kind of fallen down draft boards a little bit, but seems to have a really good rapport there. Will Fuller, no surprise, not on the field. So we'll see what actually kind of shapes out for the Miami Dolphins. But 9.5 to me is a bit high. I could definitely see them being a 9-8 team, but this is all about to be the ascension of Tua and whether he's ready to lead this team on his back on the strength of the defense.
All right. So my projections for the AFC East, I have Buffalo at 10.8 wins, Miami 9.3, New England 8.7, and the Jets at 6.6. All those are pretty close to the number. I kind of like the New England under a little bit, although going against Belichick's a little scary. I'm not sure that that's really where I want to place a big bet here. If Cam's starting for a significant amount of time, I guess I feel a little bit better about that just because of the passing woes. But they spent so much money in free agency. I feel like Bill's going to get a decent return on what he brought in. Maybe not the best return. It's not really what you should do in the NFL, but I think that Bill knows what he's doing. So probably stay away there. The Jets over 6, I think, is maybe one of my favorite bets. I think that 6-11 is definitely possible. I think that a push is probably the most likely outcome here. But I think if it's going to go either way, I think the Jets end up 7-10, definitely possible. I like what I've seen from Wilson. I love Saleh. I think that the energy and kind of the grown-upness of what he brings to the Jets organization is really important. I think they have decent weapons on the outside now. I like the running game. Their offensive line is going to be much improved. Becton is the biggest person on earth. So I think that they're in line for improvement, especially if New England slips back a little bit. But the Buffalo minus 150 to win the division, I think that is probably the best bet here because in my mind, that organization is so well run. They are really deep. McDermott is, I think, for my money, a top 5 coach in the league. Brian Daboll, you just saw what he did with Trubisky against the Bears. I mean, you can throw me out there. I think that I'm going to have a good game. Daboll should be a head coach next year. I know he almost got that Chargers job this year, but what he's doing in Buffalo with that offense is elite. And as long as Diggs and Allen are healthy, I think they're winning this division. And I actually like their Super Bowl odds at plus 1,200. I think that they're one of the 3 or 4 teams that can win it. And plus 1,200, I'll take those odds.
Yeah, I love that 12-1 because, the Bills, I mean, we saw what they did last year. Minus their little COVID situation that they're going through right now, I think that they're well positioned to be the best, probably contend for an AFC championship here. And they're only going to get more balanced. So we saw, Zach Moss is definitely getting a little bit better. Devin Singletary had a really good last preseason game, scored a touchdown, looked like he was got a little bit more burst to him. So I think that this offense and defense coming together at the right time, this is going to be a very dangerous team. And wanted to go back to one thing you just mentioned, and the fact that, Mitch Trubisky looked great for the Bills, but like what happened?
He looked great.
What happened in Chicago? We got to have another pod in the course of this season for which coach is going to get fired first, because Matt Nagy, if he screws up and starts playing around with Dalton too much and doesn't give Fields the work, this guy's got to be on the hot seat pretty soon. I don't know. He's just
I definitely think that on Gambling with Gold, we're going to do AFC this week, we're going to do NFC next week, and then we'll do awards. And in the awards, we'll definitely do first coach fired, and I would put Nagy pretty high up on that list too. So we'll get into it in a couple of weeks. We'll do it before week 1 of the NFL season, which kicks off. Oh wow, 15 days! Yikes! I gotta get it. I gotta get it together. I gotta get it together right now. All right, so AFC, we got Tua under passing yards, Jets over, Bills to win the division, Bills Super Bowl. That's what we're riding with here.
That's what we're riding with. I like the Bills Super Bowl.
All right. Now let's move on to the AFC South. An interesting division, easily winnable by 2 teams, and then 2 teams that are probably not come close to competing this season. Tennessee currently minus 130, Indianapolis plus 180, Jacksonville plus 600, Houston plus 2,500 to win the division. Over-unders, both Indy and Tennessee Tennessee's at 9.5, Indy's at 9, Jacksonville's at 6.5. Houston lowly at 4, clearly the worst team in the NFL. They're in the Spencer Rattler race. They are not in the race to win any NFL games this season. Super Bowl odds, in case anyone cares, Tennessee plus 2,800, Indianapolis plus 3,000, Jacksonville plus 10,000, and Houston, the worst odds in the NFL, at plus 20,000. So are there any bets that stand out to you here, and where are you leaning on the Tennessee versus Indianapolis debate?
Hammer the under on the Houston Texans. They are by far the worst team in the NFL. I mean, David Johnson's probably on the bubble to get cut at this rate. Phillip Lindsay's your starting running back. Tyrod Taylor, I don't know. This guy's the epitome of a game manager. And as much as he's always been like a solid fill-in, he's not it. And we don't even know besides Brandon Cooks, who's going to be catching balls. Jordan Akins, Kiki Kute. I'm just not excited about anything on that team. They lost JJ Watt. And I just don't know really where this team is going to muster up 4 wins. Possibly it comes in the division, but they're already favored to lose to the Jaguars by 3 points in week 1. So that's against a rookie quarterback. You know what I mean? Like a team that was another one with a new head coach. I don't know. There's nothing to really get excited about the Houston Texans or anything that gives me confidence that they can achieve more than 4 Ws. So yeah, I gotta fade them.
You know what? This reminds me a lot of Jacksonville last year. Everyone thought that Jacksonville was going to start the season or was going to go like 0-16 last year, right? Trash organization. They're going to tank for Trevor Lawrence. They're going to compete with the Jets to basically lose the most games. Great. They come out week 1 and they slapped Indy around and got a win. Gardner Minshew played like, I don't know, Joe Montana or something like that. I will not make week 1 bets yet, but Houston over Jacksonville week 1 seems like a lock to me. I feel it in my bones. They're going to start off 1-0. They're going to start off 1-0 with Tyrod Taylor, and then we're looking at the trash team. So I think that you're probably right on the under, but I think that you wait until after week 1. Maybe it jumps up a little bit, and then you bet the under. I think that that's probably the best way to play this. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at the worst teams in the NFL, they usually end up with 1 or 2 wins. So they throw in the fact that they have an extra game this season. Maybe you expect 2 to 3 wins, but I think that you're comfortably under the 4. And even if you get to 4, they're not going to get 5. They're not going to be 5-12.
They're not going to get 5.
I think that a push is relatively likely here. And then lean towards the under. For my projections, I have Tennessee 9.1, Indianapolis 9.2, Jacksonville 6.3, and Houston 4.9. So tight. So tight. Yeah. The Houston one I'm projected on over, but that's based on point differential. It's a Pythagorean thing. So I just take the under given all the other outside situations. Tennessee and Indianapolis are really close. Look, Tennessee is in a place where that offense is really, really awesome. Their offensive line isn't great. Their tight end position got worse with Jonnu Smith. Their wide receivers, that's the best 1-2 punch in the league.
Definitely got
perhaps. Better. Derrick Henry is awesome. And Tannehill has been great. So I don't know what the new offensive coordinator is going to bring. I assume that he'll keep a lot of what Arthur Smith had going on there. So I'm not really worried about the offense. The only concern that I have is the defense is pretty bad. They're going to need some guys to step up. And with the way that Tennessee plays games, they play so slowly that it kind of may inhibit their offense from scoring a lot. This is part of the issue with having Derrick Henry. If there is an issue, you just keep games tighter than maybe you should. And I'd like to see Tennessee maybe open it up a little bit and try to score more early, because they're going to have to realize that their defense just isn't going to cut it for the entire season. So there's my concern there. In Indianapolis, great roster. We have no idea what to expect from Carson Wentz. Their receivers are pretty trash. T.Y.'s old. Pittman's good, but the rest of it's not great. The tight ends aren't great. The running backs are awesome. Offensive line is obviously one of the best units in the league. And their defense is pretty good. Not elite, but pretty solid. If Wentz is good, I think that they'll win the division. If Wentz is what he has been the last 3 years, they got big-time issues. So I'm staying away from all division odds here. My hunch is to lean towards Tennessee because it's a little safer, but I just don't trust that defense at all.
I'm with you. This is this is just a hodgepodge of shit, and I don't want any parts of it outside of the Titans. The Colts have their own issues with really Carson Wentz, and I don't know that I can bank on Carson Wentz staying upright, healthy, and that offensive line as well holding up. This is a new quarterback and a new offense, familiar offense, but still, it's a different landscape than we were last year. I'd feel a lot better betting on the Colts if Phil Rivers, old man Rivers, was back there. But in terms of the Titans, yeah, their defense is ranked one of the worst in the league. So, why that offensive firepower can't be denied. 9 wins feels about right, like so much that I don't know that I can go to 10. So I think Vegas got that right. So to me, the best bet here is just, if all else fails, just trust that the Texans are going to be complete and utter trash.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to talk about in the AFC South. I mean, let's talk about Jacksonville for a little bit, I guess. What are your thoughts on them this year? What do you think about Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence? Maybe some fantasy outlook now that Travis Etienne's out for the season, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Etienne, really horrible news. Obviously, this catapults James Robinson into pretty much solidified RB2 territory with some RB1 upside. I mean, the guy was a beast. And so, you could have gotten lucky. There were some James Robinson rushing props out there for, around 700 yards, where he looks like he's definitely going to surpass that now with news of ETN being out for the season. But Trevor Lawrence just got named starting quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I don't think it's any surprise. Gardner Minshew was really solid, but, ultimately right now he's just playing for a new contract somewhere else, because he's really just going to play second fiddle to Trevor Lawrence, the golden boy sunshine. And I think Laviska Shenault's going to get a boost with ETN out as well. So look around for any ETN for any Shenault props that you may see. Marvin Jones will probably be a little bit more involved now that they're going to have to rely more on that passing game with the loss of ETN, who was supposed to be their gadget guy, used in different packages, kind of like Urban Meyer's Percy Harvin. So, I think that there's going to be definitely some good games. I think this is going to be a team that's probably going to be playing from behind, put up some points. But other than that, I'm not expecting more than 6.5 wins. I think that's a pretty strong number for a team that, we really all the while, Trevor Lawrence has been a great quarterback for his entire career, never really loses. But, this is a different beast in the NFL. And unfortunately, the Titans are going to be the best in this division.
Yeah, everyone keeps talking about how strong Trevor Lawrence's arm is. Everything that I read in the media, I just don't see it at all.
I don't see it. Yeah. He's accurate, and I hear he's learning from Peyton Manning. That's like his mentor, which is great to hear. But I'm not seeing the deep threat, deep downfield throws that Stafford was making to Marvin Jones in his career in Detroit. I don't see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely a little high on Marvin Jones, just because I think that he's the top option. Is the vet. He's going to get open, and Lawrence is going to trust him. I definitely think that the ETN news is huge for Shenault playing out of the slot. I think he's going to get a lot more targets than he was going to get before. And obviously James Robinson pops up to a RB2. Carlos Hyde also kind of sneaks in. Maybe he has some value late as a red zone guy. Right. We'll see. I'm not bumping up DJ Shark at all, because I'm off the Shark train. Like I don't want to do anything there.
Too inconsistent.
Yeah, absolutely. 6.5 is an interesting number, because I don't know what this team is going to be. They've looked awful other than the fourth quarter against the Saints, but that was super garbage time. Right. I haven't seen anything from this team in preseason that makes me think that they're going to be really that much better. What I do know, based on what I know about Urban Meyer, is that they're going to have elite special teams. So maybe that steals a couple games for them. I think that they will be well run in terms of getting in and out. They're going to do everything very efficiently. They're not going to make dumb, silly mistakes that bad teams make. That's not going to happen with Urban Meyer. But they don't have the talent, and I don't think that they have the right systems yet in order for them to succeed in the NFL. You could do all the little stuff great. If you can't do the medium things well at all, you're still not winning games in the NFL. So right. I don't really see it for Jacksonville this year. I would probably lean towards the under. They do get to play Houston twice, though. I know I said that week 1 they're going to lose, but it makes it a little bit easier. So maybe it's all a stay away. Maybe we'll just all hammer the Houston under and watch them burn to the ground this season, and then wait for 2022 to make some bets on this division.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the last AFC division. We're going to go to the AFC West, another very competitive division with actually top to bottom. This might be the best division in the AFC. We'll start with Kansas City. They are minus 250 to win the division. We have the Chargers, who are plus 500, Denver plus 525, Vegas plus 1,400. The over-unders on all of those teams: Kansas City 12.5, Chargers 9.5, Denver 8.5, and the Raiders at 7.5. Super Bowl odds: we have Kansas City 525, Chargers 3,500, Denver 5,000, and the Raiders at 8,000. So what are your initial thoughts on this division? I know I have some spicy takes on Denver and the Chargers a little bit later, but Kansas City looks to be once again the cream of the crop here.
Yeah, you really can't bet against the Kansas City Chiefs here unless there's some catastrophic injury to Patrick Mahomes or another skill player, mainly Patrick Mahomes. That's pretty much what's driving that Andy Reid's success in Kansas City, and this being a consistent, 12-13 team, 13 win team. So Yeah, I think that one, I'm probably going to stay away. There's just not much. There's too much juice for me, honestly, to really bet that. I am a little bit more interested, however, in the Raiders under 7, mainly because the Raiders just, I don't know, maybe it's a Mike Mayock thing, or John Gruden just hasn't, figured out how to be a coach in the modern times. But, they're very predictable. And Derek Carr, it seems like every game is playing for his job at this point. So I just don't have a lot of faith in the Raiders system in offense. They went out and spent a lot of money, guaranteed money, on Kenyon Drake when you already had a 23, 24-year-old running back in Josh Jacobs. So it didn't really make sense to me. I get its depth, but I'm not really excited about this offense. Their offensive line is pretty strong, but their weapons on the outside have a lot to be desired. Henry Ruggs, I'm cool on that. Brian Edwards, cool. Darren Waller's their best receiver. And so, this team will move the chains. They'll score some points, but I also don't see a lot on defense that's going to give me confidence that they can finish as a 7-10 team. I don't see. They'll probably finish as a 7-10 team, worst case. But the exceeding those expectations, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, so I have Vegas. Well, I'll do all of my projections. I have Kansas City at 11.1, Chargers at 9.7, Denver 8.7, and I actually have Vegas at 8.8. And I was surprised when I did those numbers because I thought that Vegas's defense, I mean, they're utter trash. And Mayock and Gruden have done a really terrible job of putting this roster together. That being said, if Gruden does one thing well, he's still doing a good job coaching up the quarterbacks in the offense. Like, they score a lot of points. Now, a lot of it might be garbage points, but they score points, and they found a way to win games the last 2 seasons. Now, Denver's better. The Chargers are better. Kansas City, I would probably argue, is a little bit worse this year than they have been in years past, but still an elite team. So I don't know how many wins in the division is for Vegas, and their schedule is, middle of the road. So I think my projection of 8.8 is probably a little high. I would stay away from that bet. But I am a little high on their offense and think that they can keep them in some games. And I tend to like Derek Carr more than I probably should. I hope that he fails because then I get more Marcus Mariota time. Go Ducks. But I don't think that's going to quite happen this year. There are I mean, I love Vegas. I'm definitely going to go to a game this year. I want to go watch a game in the big Roomba. But I do not want to talk about them anymore. They are not that interesting to me. What I want to talk about is the Chargers because of Justin Herbert and what they've done, and Brandon Staley. And I think that they have a really, really good chance to make the playoffs this year. And then Denver. I'll save Denver for last because that's my spiciest take. I think that the Chargers over under 9.5. I think the 10 wins is very realistic for them. Herbert doesn't have to take a giant step. He can play exactly like he did last year. The deep throws are going to regress a little bit, but the offense should be more open. I like their weapons. I like that Austin Eckler should be better and more involved in the passing game. I like that they don't have a coach who doesn't know how to make in-game decisions. That should be great. Brandon Staley did an elite job with the Rams defense last season, and I think that he'll carry over some of it with pretty similar parts with the Chargers. Now, they're not as deep, but they do have Derwin James. They do have Joey Bosa. They have guys all over the field. I think that they'll have a really, really good defense, much improved. Something to look for in fantasy, too, because they're pretty cheap. And I think that the offense is going to roll a little bit. The offensive line, they brought in a new center, Lindsley, from Green Bay. They have Balog on the right side. They have Rashawn Slater, who they drafted in their first round, who's looked pretty good thus far. And I'm pretty confident that the Chargers are going to go like 10-7, 11-6 this year and make the playoffs. How do you feel about the Chargers this season?
Yeah, the Chargers, they got a new offensive coordinator in Joe Lombardi and obviously the new head coach. And, I think there's going to be some offensive regression here a bit. We saw Justin Herbert throw for one of the best rookie campaigns that there's ever been, next to Andrew Luck, and broke the record for TD passes. And I think a lot of that was game script related. And I think that this team's going to be improved. They're not going to be playing from behind as much. Their offensive line, they made it a point to really bolster that offensive line, which I think is great. Austin Eckler, can he stay healthy? Mike Williams, can he stay healthy? But more importantly, can that defense stay healthy? Bosa on the end, they went out and grabbed a lot of good defensive players that could hopefully keep them into games. And I think that they're definitely going to be an improved team. I do like the over for the Chargers at 9.5 because I do think that they're going to be a bit more balanced team. However, from a player prop perspective, kind of fading the Chargers initially because as I've seen, Justin Herbert's passing prop is 4,500 yards, 4,550, which seems a bit overstated for me for a team that's going to be in a new offense, probably more balanced and structured, keep him between the tackles, delivering throws, but ultimately trying to win games, not just run up scoreboards.
Yeah, I have Herbert. I think it's around 35 or 40, 43.50, I think is the passing yard that I have. So I don't hate the under there. And I do think that you're right here that the game script last year boosted his stats a little bit, and we may not see them pass as much, especially in the fourth quarter this season, because they're going to be a better team. So I would take the over 9.5 and the Herbert under passing yards. I think those are actually kind of pretty correlated. So
right.
Yeah, I would definitely buy into that one. I want to hit on one thing on Kansas City really quickly. Now, the Super Bowl odds I wouldn't touch. The over under 12.5. I actually like the under. I think that 12-5 or 11-6 is pretty realistic. I think the division's a little bit tougher, and I think that 2 years of going to the Super Bowl, it's a lot to try and do this 3 years in a row. And I think there might be a little bit of, we'll see how much the Super Bowl loss motivates them, but I don't think this is a FU campaign. This feels like a team that's going for a second title in 3 years that'll coast through the regular season because they know that they're good enough, and then turn it on when they get to the playoffs. Just manage health until we get there. So that seems like 11-6, 12-5 to me. So I would take them there. The other concern that I have for Kansas City, and I don't know if this is something that because of Mahomes' first half against Arizona where he was terrible in the preseason, but when Tyreek Hill's not on the field, this team is like, it's so not the same.
Just lost.
If Hill is injured at any point this season, like I guess they did a little bit 2 years ago when Sammy Watkins had his breakout and Hill was injured for a while, and they kind of held it together. But I think that Hill means so much to this offense now. If he regresses a little bit or he's not in, they're in some trouble, especially with their offensive line.
Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman. And Mahomes has already been pretty vocal about Hardman not running the right routes and stuff like that. So he's already been critical. Clearly missed Tyreek Hill on the field there. He's really their over the top home run hitter, as well as just the guy that paces them along with Travis Kelce. So 100% they're going to need them healthy on the field in order to be successful. So interesting angle, man. I think that's a good play there.
All right, let's move over to Denver. And I'll kick it off to you. What are your thoughts on Denver after they decided to go Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock to be the starter week 1? And what do you think about their season outlook?
Shows me they're trying to win games. And to me, their defense is one of the best in the NFL. Last year, they were just injury riddled, right? Like Bradley Chubb was hurt. Von Miller wasn't on the field. They just went out and drafted Patrick Surtain. I think that this team is going to be the surprise of the division here. Wouldn't be surprised if they finished. They're definitely going to finish above the Raiders. That's not even a question. But I wouldn't be surprised if they make a little noise in trying to make a playoff berth here. And it's really going to be off the strength of Teddy Two Gloves. And I'm not mad at it because the guy he doesn't turn over the ball. And that's the problem with Drew Lock. Drew Lock turned over the ball entirely too much. And they drafted Javonte Williams. I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be the breakout star. Now, Courtland Sutton, we'll see how he comes along in the course of the season, but reports haven't been too keen on his ability to return to full strength. So one player prop I want to throw out there, Jerry Jeudy is absurdly sitting at over the receptions, is set at 65.5 for Jerry Jeudy. I think he's going to blow that out the water. I think we could see at least 80 for there. Let's fire that shit up. Just for sake, and now that Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback, I love it even more. Robbie Anderson had 95 targets with DJ Moore having 66 last year. So if you're looking at Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, I think he's going to probably command more targets this year just because Sutton's coming off of the injury. And then you only have KJ Hamler other than that to compete with other than Noah Fant. So to me, I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be soaking up a ton of targets. You're going to see him in fantasy football emerge as a solid wide receiver 2 and fly up draft boards because he's going to be a beast. So scoop him up.
Yeah, so I was legitimately shocked this morning. This is Wednesday morning when Denver decided to go Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock. It's not that I have a problem with Teddy Bridgewater. He is an absolutely fine middle of the road quarterback. but he provides no long-term value. The guy has bounced around. He's bounced around the league more than a desperate Instagram model. Okay. So he doesn't provide any long-term value. He's on a 1-year deal. My thought with the Denver is they're 1 year away from really competing. This is a really, really good roster, but still young in some parts. The defense is a little bit older, but can hang on for another year. All of their offensive parts are really young. They have to know, and I'm pretty sure that they do know and are building their team around the idea that they're either going to have Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback next year. That's why you don't draft. That's why you don't draft Justin Fields. That's why you get an elite cornerback. Right. Let's push it off for 1 year. We're 1 year away. Great. If you're going to do that, and if you know that, and you're building your team around Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers, why in the hell are you starting Teddy Bridgewater? Go start Drew Lock. Go start Drew Lock. See if he's worth anything. He's either going to be terrible and lose you a lot of games. Okay, great. You get a better pick. Or he surprises people and has value, and you can actually trade him for a 3rd-round pick next season. Why aren't you going that route? You're not winning the Super Bowl. You're probably not making the playoffs with this roster. Teddy Bridgewater is a league average quarterback. He may not mess it up for you, but he's not doing anything spectacular. Go start Drew Lock. Try to get value on him. Punt this season. Get a draft pick. Go get Aaron Rodgers. Go compete for a Super Bowl next season. It made absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with the sentiment, especially considering if there is behind the scenes movement or traction on Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers to Denver next season, then yeah, you start the young buck, see what his trade value is, because you're ultimately not getting much trade value out of Teddy Bridgewater unless a contending team goes down with a catastrophic injury to a team. And then, in which case it's good that you're showcasing Teddy Bridgewater because he's likely going to be a candidate to get shipped out because you have insurance like Drew Lock. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think they're going to try to get some wins here, set the foundation of a winning culture and environment. It's been a while since the Peyton Manning days. So I think that this is a football move, not a total business move, which I think ultimately this is going to end up being. If they wind up being bad, I think we'll see Drew Lock out there soon enough. And then, hopefully getting his trade value up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough, right? Because you have these guys in the locker room. You think that the majority of this team is going to be back next season. So you want to instill a winning culture, and you don't want to piss them off in the locker room by starting a quarterback that they believe is not as good as the starter. Exactly. I totally get that. This is a business. This isn't for pleasing people in the locker room, right? These guys are going to pay millions of dollars to be on the field. They'll play with whoever quarterback is there. And it cannot possibly be like Teddy Bridgewater is leaps and bounds better than Drew Lock. There's no chance that that's possible. If it were like that and they're like, one guy is absolutely better than the other one, and basically we can't play with this quarterback, fine, I get it. But these guys are neck and neck. There's a reason why it was a surprise. And we saw Drew Lock 2 weeks ago against Minnesota absolutely light up the Vikings in the first quarter. This is 5-7 for like a bazillion yards and 2 touchdowns to KJ Hamler. Okay, it's not like the guy can't play, and I'm not a Drew Lock fan at all. All I'm saying is like it's not that different. So I'm mad at Denver right now. I got issues. I just think, look, my wife is a Broncos fan. I want them to be successful. Home life will be much happier if the Broncos are decent. You're not doing yourself any favors right now, Denver. All right, that's it. I'm good with my Denver rant now.
I love that you saved that for the last one. That was great.
Oh man.
So what's your best bet? What's your best bet out of the AFC West?
Yeah, AFC West. Chargers over 9.5 is probably my best bet. No. Kansas City under 12.5 is the best bet. Chargers over 9.5 is the second best one. I can't decide whether my Chargers, Herbert, Oregon brain is trying to push me over that, or if I actually believe in Brandon Staley. I really do think that they hired a great coach.
It was a good signing. It definitely was.
And
anything's better than Anthony Lynn's another one of those Gase type dudes. Like, how many games did they lose by like in the final moments of the game just for bad coaching decisions? So
yeah,
Staley will fix that.
So they ended up at 7-9 last season. Either they were like 3-9 or 4-9 at some point or something like that. And he lost them at least 3 games. Like that was a team that easily could have gone 9-7 last year with no question. Right. So yeah, I think that with health, and the Chargers are always injured, it's always one of their biggest issues. Derwin James is back. Bose is back. I think that defense is going to be, I said it before, but like, I think there's a chance that this ends up as like a top 7 unit in the NFL this season, which is going to take a lot off the Chargers offense's plate. So, yeah, I'm talking myself more into it. It's not the Herbert thing. I actually think this team is good. So over 9.5 there. Denver at 8.5. I mean, out of spite, I want to bet the under, but I think it's probably the right number. And the Chargers or the Raiders I'll stay away with. So number 1, Kansas City under 12.5. Number 2, Chargers over 9.5. Those are the best bets.
Mine are Raiders under 7, Herbert under 45, 50 passing yards. And I'll throw one more in there. Oh, all right. The Jerry Jeudy over 66.5 receptions. One more player prop, Josh Jacobs. Seen it under 1,000 on FanDuel, 975. And he rushed for over 1,000 his first 2 seasons. Kenyon Drake, they added him in the offseason. But ultimately, this guy's still getting 300 plus touches a season. So as long as he can stay healthy, he'll clear 975.
Awesome. I love all of those. Josh Jacobs for fantasy, actually. He's slipping so far in ADP. He actually might be worth a buy at this point.
He is, man. I think it's good value for the amount of workload that he's going to get. Like, I don't think Kenyon Drake, they paid him, but I don't think he's really going to be a threat to his carries. Maybe in the passing game, but not the carries.
All right. So that does it for episode 1 through 4 of the Gambling with podcast. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week with the NFC. And then in subsequent weeks, we'll be back with all of the odds that you need before the season starts. And then as soon as we get to week 1, you know what it means. 5 best bets of the week. We're giving it out to you. Go place your money. Let's go make some money together. Until then, thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you later.